This conversation is obviously going to be about friends that got together to celebrate magic. Jean-Christophe Babin, I'm so happy to see you again.
Diana, it's shared.
Fabrizio Buonamassa Stigliani, I'm so happy to see you
Grazie,
in
cara.
Dubai. Welcome back.
Thank you.
I know you just arrived this morning and you're here for like a minute.
For a few hours, let me say.
Maximilian Büsser, I'm very happy to meet you for the first time.
Likewise.
We're going to be friends, I feel, right? How does it feel to be back in Dubai?
Well, I think I was there 1 month ago, so it didn't change too much. It's a bit colder today.
In 1 month, Dubai can change a lot.
But it's beautiful, as usual, and so, you know me, it's a pleasure. I love that region. So it's always exciting to fly in, and it's never long enough.
I was looking at your Instagram. You were skiing yesterday, and I bet you were swimming in the morning. You need to give me some tips, traveling tips, please, later on.
Well, a good, I think, meal just before takeoff, so that you don't lose time when you take off, and you sleep immediately.
And what about the energy? Is that the passion for
No,
what
I don't
you
need.
do?
I don't need to eat too much.
Okay.
It's all excitement.
Okay, I need all those tips before my next Fashion Week trip. We're here to launch something very, very special. So I'm going to give the ground to you to start this panel. Go ahead.
All right. So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. A great pleasure to be here for a presentation of something which is very special for two reasons, mainly. The first reason is, as you know, Serpenti is Bvlgari, and Bvlgari is Serpenti as a leading ladies' watch collection, but also jewelry, accessories. And it's one of those few watch collection which was born since inception as a watch for ladies. In the watch universe, most ladies' watches are just smaller men's watches, which have been shrunk a bit. With a bit of mother of pearl, a bit of pavé diamond, and here you get, which is not bad. Some are nice, but let's say that they are not really paying a tribute to femininity or to ladies. At Bvlgari, like some other jewelers, we create watches for ladies, which is natural for a jeweler. And here today, the first main point is that for the first time in watchmaking history, and those guys they know even more than I in watchmaking history, a lady's watch, the Serpenti Bvlgari, has given birth to a men's watch. So we see really more than ever the raising woman power when ladies' watches now are dictating the styling of the men's watch. And the second thing is that it has been done by two men in a collaboration which is very unique between first two extraordinary persons and friends of mine, Max, Fabrizio. We know each other since, I wouldn't say ages because we will believe we are too old, but since quite a lot of time, let's put it that way. And the beauty of that collaboration, it's the second one by the way, is that unlike some collaborations, Max and Fabrizio are belonging to two totally different companies. Max has created his own company with the success we all know. Fabrizio and I were not as bold as Max, so we have just joined Bvlgari, which is also nice. But obviously our shareholders are totally different, so the collaborations are not forced by anyone. They are just driven by reciprocal, I would say, respect, admiration, sharing of values. And I will pass the mic immediately to them because they are the two heroes of that incredible project.
But before Jean-Christophe, let's see this amazing video together to see what the partnership is really about. Cue to video.
To be timeless in Rome has its own meaning. An eternal city, yet always evolving. This spirit is at the core of our work. The Serpenti is an icon. It's more than a watch, a tasteful blend of jewelry and timepieces.
I guess it all started with a simple idea. At MB&F, pushing horological limits and defying convention is what we do. I could feel the spark of something.
I came to Max with a fundamental question. How do we create a new product combining our two different DNA? Every line, every curve need to work in harmony. It took us 3 years to find the right balance between the aesthetics and the mechanics.
The case design was insanely complex, probably the most complex case we've done. Between the curves, the multi-dimensions, the sapphire crystals, all perfectly joined together, I found myself saying, how are we going to pull this off? But that's where artistry begins, when our two minds collide.
Design is the art of playing with constraints to create something that doesn't exist yet. It would not have been possible without Max's ingenuity.
Developing and handcrafting a movement like this, every component, every subtle detail, is not even ours, it's yours. What a journey to bring this Serpenti to life. Fabrizio, I think we've created something truly special.
È vero, Max, guarda cosa abbiamo fatto.
Grazie.
This deserves a round of applause. This video is edited. It really started with a text message, right? I want to know more about that text message between you guys.
But I don't know why, at a certain moment I had this idea in mind. It took almost 10 years that I was thinking about a Serpenti that was not dedicated on the ladies, but it was difficult for me to have this object in mind. So it was something that was in my mind, but it was impossible for me to see the face of this watch. And at a certain moment, after many discussions, I say, guys, okay, we have to do this watch, we have to do it in a certain way. I start to make sketches, and immediately, the day 2, I start to think about this gentleman. And
That's when you got the message, I believe.
Yes, and I say, I need Max. We have to do with Max because his amazing movement, his sculptures, and we are very well known for the ultra movement. Max is very well known for totally different approach. You know, the Serpenti in Bvlgari is always the head is a three-dimensional object. So the idea was just to work with the Serpenti in a different way, not just to take a Seduttori or a Serpenti precious watch with a different scale. I started to make sketches for 3 days. The first day was completely wrong. The second day was better. The third day we had the watch. And in a certain moment, I sent a message to Max. Max, I have an idea. I need to talk with you. And Max immediately replied,
Let's do it.
Let's do it, yeah. And I hadn't even seen it, but you have to understand, I've been doing collabs for the better part of 25 years. And the collab we did with Fabrizio and Bvlgari on the first Allegra was just mind-boggling. It was actually a collab we started on Zoom. Yeah, I remember it was locked down and Fabrizio was sketching and he was showing me on the Zoom and I was like, oh, I got that. And it was incredible. It was so fantastic. And I will say, I was very scared. We're talking of Bvlgari. It's a €3 billion a year company and we're these little midgets, creative midgets, but we're midgets. And it was so fluid and so much fun that when we were doing the presentations during Dubai Watch Week 2021 of the Allegra, everybody kept on saying, so what's next? And we had nothing next. We were like, yeah, we'll see. And 3 months later, I get the text. I have an idea, like, whatever it is. And then he tells me what it is. We're going to rework the Serpenti.
But why the Serpenti? Were you kind of worried that you're borrowing this symbol that has always resonated with, at least for us, for women empowerment? We've seen it worn by women and it has shifted successfully to the male sector, even though women are kind of borrowing codes from the males industry when it comes to fashion and other, like garments. But to see that in the watchmaking industry, it must have been a bit challenging, no?
So
were you worried
for
at
many,
all?
many years, especially the ladies' media has been asking me, when are you going to do a ladies' watch? And I always replied, never, because I don't do men's watches. We create horological machines. We create kinetic sculptures. And some women love them, some men love them, but that's not my point. I create sculptures. And that's exactly, I think, what initially the idea was like, let's create this incredible mechanical sculpture which embodies both our worlds. And when you touch an icon like Serpenti, you're terrified. And luckily I had a good mentor here who was taking all the risk doing the drawings, because I would never have dared to take that project on. If they would have said, you do it, I said no. With Fabrizio, yeah.
Fabrizio, was it difficult to kind of balance the technical complexity of the watch and the aesthetic, which is mostly curvy, and the Serpenti has a different vibe? A friend of mine said it bites. I love that. Yes. It bites.
Yeah. It was difficult at the beginning, but in a certain moment I've seen the watch, I've seen the movement, and I start to make, I don't remember, more or less 20 sketches per day, and the image was clear in my mind. That's why I sent the message to Max, and this was the funniest part, because at the end, after these sketches, Max started to work like crazy with his own team for 3 years to have this watch. It was so difficult, and at the beginning we were not happy, so he decided to start the development from scratch, because the first maquette that we had in our hand was not 100% like our expectation.
The engineers had taken over, which is normal. You have this beautiful drawing, which is like a car. I mean, we're talking of the power of light flowing on it. This is not a round watch. This is something much more complex. And of course, the engineers, even though mine are very much used to it, they did as best as they could. And when we saw the technical renderings, we were like, with Fabrizio, like, this is not what he designed. So we said, okay, no. And I remember he came down, and for 3 hours he sat with the engineers and like, you see that curve there? That curve has to be like this. And I was like, okay. And just worked it out. And after 3 hours, it came much closer. That's what you call talent. And so that's great. But then how do you make it? Because at the end of the day, there is the beauty, but we have to have this working. There are 310 components of the movement. There's a case which is arguably the most complex case we've ever created. And the difficulties are opportunities.
This is the first part.
That was the Allegra way we did originally. Yeah. So the difficulties actually made the product change, but better. And that's interesting. So the first design Fabrizio did, there was a whole sapphire. The sapphire was the whole length of the case. And it is possible, but we'll not make 99, we'll make 9, and they'll cost €1 million a piece, and it didn't make much sense. So from there, Fabrizio took it to the next step. He used the difficulty.
You spoke about cars. The automotive industry is something that combines you both. And I forgot to ask you, where did you guys meet?
In Dubai. Dubai Watch Week 2000 and, I don't remember.
17, I walk up to him.
So what is this love that you have for cars, both of you?
In my previous life, I was a car designer. I started to make sketches about cars when I was 4. And I just discovered that Max did the same things when he was young. If you love cars, you love watches. If you love watch, you have a passion for cars. But the idea around this watch was not to copy and make small cars. The idea was to have a different Serpenti with an amazing technology that you can see through the eyes of the snake, and a lot of details that talk about the MB&F brand, like the rear, the tail of this snake. So I think it in a very natural way. We talk about cars, we talk about watches, we talk about Serpenti, we talk about MB&F movement. It was really, really natural.
Jean-Christophe, how important is it for you to kind of lead partnerships between brands that share the same values and aim to disrupt the market?
Well, discovered the watchmaking industry 25 years ago, and I was a bit shocked by how that industry was in a very tiny country, by the way, because Switzerland is very small. was divided along lines which are groups on the one hand, independents, and eventually very traditional.
Yeah.
Obviously, we cannot deny there are a lot of innovations, but it's very traditional, and the mentalities are extremely traditional. I'm not from Swiss origin myself, but I was a bit surprised. And fortunately, and this is very much the spirit of Bvlgari and the spirit of MB&F, there are a few companies, there are a few people in that industry who like, to break the rules,
Yes.
to challenge the rules, to be provocative. And to give you an example, we've been collaborating twice with Max, and I think the result speaks by itself. It's just something that it's superlative, something that no one, I think, could have even imagined from two totally different brands, at least in terms of origins. But it goes beyond that. For instance, even though it's not a watch, we created together with Max the Geneva Watch Days.
Yes.
Just because with COVID, all the traditional fairs had been cancelled, and just with a call on a Saturday morning, you remember, just to exchange what do you think, and there were also two colleagues, one from Ulysse Nardin, one from Bradling, and in just half a day, we had the concept. And then on the Monday, I contacted the Geneva state authorities, which immediately bought the concept, and it was born and is more alive than ever. So I think that in Switzerland there is still room to break the rules, to think out of the box, and not to reinvent watchmaking. This would be very arrogant, because watchmaking is something which is deeply rooted with a lot of expertise, which is remarkable, but probably there are not enough brands which are really innovating. Meaning by innovation, something really, which is a rupture, but without breaking the DNA of each brand, because this is clearly something extremely consistent with MB&F, as much as it's consistent with Bvlgari. But for Serpenti, I can tell you, it's a major, major disruption. However, it's a Serpenti, and it's a masculine / unisex Serpenti. This one is a bit more masculine. This one will be a bit more unisex. But a Serpenti it is. And maybe in 10 years, Serpenti will be a bestseller for gentlemen. Who knows? But if you never try, you never know. And the beauty of working with people like Fabrizio, like Max, is those people are always ready to take those crazy challenges to break the too many traditions of Swiss watchmaking. And if we want that beautiful tradition to go stronger and stronger into the 21st century, there's no other option than to dare. We are famous ourselves, for the Finissimo saga, which are the ultra-thin watches. Yeah. This has created virtually a new category. And this is just doing good to the market, because it contributes to make the market bigger, and more attractive for some people who, insofar, were not so much interested in what you have created yourself, Max. Initially, and today even more so, has attracted to watchmaking people who otherwise would have never bought the more traditional brands, because they were not excited. Mm-hmm. So I think creating excitement in watches, but more generally speaking, in luxury, is foremost. And obviously it's a challenge, because you have many brands, many codes, and when it's a watch, it's the worst, because additionally, you need to give time.
If I just may, we have to give kudos to Jean-Christophe and to Bvlgari, because this whole project, which has taken 3 years of our life, we were doing also different things on the parallel, but is only for 99 watches, so 3 times 33. That is a humongous amount of watches for us. That's 1/4 of my yearly production, but it's not even a rounding error for Bvlgari. So when Jean-Christophe and Bvlgari say, yes, we're going to put talent, energy, money behind this, for something which is not going to appear on the bottom line, you have to say congratulations.
They're known to take risks.
It's more than that. It's a creative-driven company, not a financial-driven company.
The brand is 20 years old, right, this year?
My brand, yes.
Yes, your brand, 20 years old. How do you feel about all the innovation and all the progress that you have achieved with these partnerships? What did they add to you on a creative level and for the brand, obviously?
It's actually, we were just talking about that with one of you this morning. When I created the brand, and it was a bit of a rebellion, I was very angry with myself, with the industry, a lot of things happening 20 years ago. It was about creating these extraordinary 3D kinetic art pieces. Yeah. Because watchmaking is art. So if it's art, let's go and experiment. And I thought it was all about creating these amazing sculptures. 15 years later, I realized, yes, when we're gone, those pieces will remain. But for me, what remains are the souvenirs of the journey, of all the people I've worked with. And without all these, I only have ideas. And then if you have all these incredible people around you, you create something. Those are the memories. And then I thought that was it. But actually last year, I realized one step further. It's actually what has defined me and how I've grown as a human being. All these interactions, all these falling down and getting back up on your feet and joys and anger, is that I'm a completely different man at 58 years old than I was at 38. And actually, that is more important than anything else. It's all that journey of self-discovery.
That's quite inspiring. What about you, Fabrizio? If you look at the journey of Max,
That's
everything
amazing.
that he's saying right now,
Honestly,
we can all relate to this sense of growth, obviously.
yes, for sure. And I remember when we met the first time, the company was totally different. His company was totally different. He was a different person. But we always had a good time, funny. We send a message. We talk about different things. And honestly, I think it's this is the most interesting part of this collaboration. That is, yes, it's an amazing Serpenti. It's a brand new Serpenti. It's a completely different point of view. You cannot see a Serpenti in the same way after this watch. But we have fun. We talk about science fiction, we talk about cars, we talk about manga, we talk about many things. And you see, all these things are in this product.
I know everybody wants to see the watches and like try them on, but I'm really intrigued, and I was so surprised with this bond that you have. Because for me, luxury at the end of the day is about humanity. It's about this collective work. When two people meet, they create magic, and this is what we're seeing here today. Jean-Christophe, under your leadership, you did kind of push the barriers. You wanted to bring forward more collaborations. If you were to think about these partnerships with different maisons, how do you think that in general impacts the watchmaking industry as we see it? How do you hope to see the watchmaking industry evolve in the future? And this is obviously a question for all of you, if you would like to.
Well, of course, you have very different partnerships. The most common, even though not many brands do use it, is to collaborate with artists to animate your existing collections. Typically, we recently, last year, launched 4 pieces with Tadawando, whom we have worked several times, which were on the themes of Quattro Stagioni, 4 seasons. And Tadao designed 4 different dies, which were very complex dies, which were mosaics of art stones, of colors which were mirroring each and every single season. And this is what I would call, the kind of traditional collaboration, which is beautiful, and it provides also, in that case, it was Serpenti for ladies, and it provides the clients with a new vision, if I may say so, where the art is embedded into the watch. And for a company like Bvlgari, let's not forget that we are Roman, so we have inherited ourselves from a unique cultural, architectural heritage. Art must be at the very center of everything we do. So partnering with artists is natural and is very exciting and mind-opening. Then the second level, obviously, is more or less what we see today. But as Max rightly pointed out, when we started the project, it didn't start from a financial requirement. It started from a vision. It started from common enthusiasm to break new boundaries, to try, because turning a snake into a men's watch is something say they are crazy. I mean, a snake is obviously, I mean, it was born on Cleopatra's wrist. What should it be, I mean, for a man? So we didn't put numbers. We put ideas, enthusiasm, beliefs as well. I mean, it has been a serious process. And so I think this is the essence and could be an example on how some watchmaking could evolve in the future. So not only to be self-centered on what we always did ourselves, somehow constrained by your DNA, we have a bit artificially defined because your DNA is kind of company decision. So you can decide that your DNA is that, or that, or that. I mean, there's no real definition for DNA.
Yeah.
But fusing two different DNAs, or name it the way you want, to try to create something exceptional is obviously for watchmaking a very exciting direction. And I think that this one in particular has given birth really to a new generation of watches. Extremely difficult, by the way, as you have underlined, Max. And if I compare it to some collaboration where in one group you take one icon and then you replicate it in plastic through another brand, this is another way of doing collaboration, but this is purely financial. Yeah. I'm not sure it will change the history of watchmaking. On that, I'm not sure either, I have to be frank. But I think that if watchmaking should evolve, it's probably the right direction.
What about the transmission of expertise between these maisons? How do you see them kind of changing the ecosystem of the entire watchmaking industry, or hoping to at least?
We learn a lot. We learn a lot from Max about this project. I think it was the same for him for the Allegra, the way to play with the stones. This is another thing that's very interesting. We discovered the way to fix this glass, 5 glasses on a case. That was absolutely a nightmare for him. For me, it was the most simple things, making a sketch. What do you think? So it's not just, I met very interesting people. I would love to work with some of these people again, because they have a different vision, they have a different point of view, they have an amazing agility. They move from an idea from the other in a few seconds, and never say, no, this is impossible.
But if I may say, because it's very important to point your attention that I know very few companies and very few groups. Don't forget that we belong to a group, by the way, which is not the case of Max. And I know very few groups which would allow to share their expertise. By the way, we did not ask to our shareholder whether they learned about the project only recently, and I know they will be very happy because Mr. Arnaud is someone who loves, unexpected creativity, as long as it's relevant. But I can tell you that to succeed, you need an open-mindedness, which is pretty unusual in the world of luxury, because in luxury, people believe that they have an expertise that no one else. But as you know, we do also a jewelry. The jewelry we craft today is still at 30% crafted the way it was crafted 15,000 years ago with the lost wax. So, our expertise are important, but we have also to relativize that if we do not invent new expertise by sharing, we will be stuck maybe in 100 years from now using exactly the same technologies. Exactly. So the sharing is important, but it's not rooted in the brains and the culture of most of the stakeholders. I don't know, Max, what you think about that.
It's pretty, I think it would be a nice way forward if bigger brands mentored and helped smaller creators. It's a perfect two-way highway and everybody wins.
Is this something you would like to see more of in the industry?
I think
obviously
the industry would thrive on something like that. But just coming back to your initial question, I think Fabrizio will agree. As creators, we are adrenaline junkies. And as such, you only get your spike of adrenaline when you take a risk. If you're iterating, I don't know, for you, I feel dead. It's like, oh, let's do a different dial. So here, you put yourself in danger and you're alive. And that's what we've been doing for 20 years at MB&F, and I know that's what Fabrizio, that's why we get along so well together. So when he starts sketching these incredible pieces, I see my technical director, who's also my partner in the company, Serge, go white.
And friend.
I go like, whoa, okay. But if you have a growth mindset compared to a fixed mindset, a growth mindset is you thrive on difficulty. Each difficulty is an opportunity to put yourself in danger and therefore to learn. And we've got a little team, I know your team is like that, our team is like that, and that's why it just works. If you have a collab with guys at the other side who are only interested in money, or guys who are just interested in making it easy, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And that's why it's not just putting two brands together, or even two creators together, which can work. This is a pretty amazing, how do you say, we've got a lien, we've got a link here with Fabrizio. And if in a couple of months or a couple of years he sends me another text,
I was just gonna...
for sure, I'm like, okay, let's do this.
I think I just found my life coach. This is so inspiring, honestly. I have nothing more to add, but congratulations on this beautiful partnership. I know it was difficult for a woman to sit here among three best friends talking about this partnership, which is a male's watch, but I absolutely enjoyed every single minute. Thank you so much for allowing me to tell your stories. Bvlgari has been a brand that is very dear to my heart. It also took a risk on me many, many years ago, but that's for another panel discussion. Thank you so much, and if anybody would like to ask questions, the room is all yours. Okay, one more thing. Please, no posting before 5 p.m. Here you go. Yes. You can scream? No. No.
Hello. Well, congratulations. It looks amazing. I have a question regarding the design process, especially for both of you. When I look at the watch, it gives me a lot of vibes from previous maybe models from MB&F, maybe like the Bulldog a little bit, HMX. Was it part of the design process? Did you have specific models that kind of inspired you throughout the process? Paying homage to your 20 years, etc.
The watch changed in my mind when, I don't know why, I've seen the Bulldog movement. In a certain moment, I start making a lot of sketches, but the idea was around the eyes. The eyes for Bvlgari are very important because I always made with diamonds, with emeralds, is a part of the design of the head of the snake. But for this watch, for me, the eyes must show you a technical achievement. And the first sketches were made with the two retrograde counters. And I say, how it's gonna possible to make this kind of movement, I don't know. But in a certain moment in my brain, pop up, hey, look at me, I'm the Bulldog from Max. The big balance wheel with these two eyes. I say, okay, guys, now we have the watch. Make the final sketches on with the technical drawing on the paper, and I designed the body like you see on the automotive industry. You have the engine, you have the chassis, and you design the line. And this is the sketches that I sent it to Max. It's one of the sketches that you see, the blue one with the top view. During the process with Max, in a very natural way, we add elements from MB&F, from Bvlgari, from our passion for cars. No?
And so it's interesting because originally the glass was one, and I told Fabrizio that's not going to be possible. I'll say not easy, and so we'll need two sapphire glasses. And he starts sketching me because this guy never stops sketching. So he starts sketching and he puts a thing and he calls it the Targa, like the Porsche 911 Targa. And he says, we could do something, and it's the first time you actually, the word of a car enters the process. But this is months later because we've already done the feasibility. And from there, we start going, wouldn't it be cool if? And honestly, that phrase, that question is what defines us. Wouldn't it be cool if? And we went down that rabbit hole. And then he comes to me one day with the sketch of the glass, which is already so complex to do. It's a 3D mill in 5-axis, the sapphire back, like the front. And he says, wouldn't it be cool if it's stepped? And we're like, what do you mean stepped? And so there we go back to Novo Cristal, the sapphire maker we work with, and they were like, are you crazy? Like, yeah, well, Fabrizio would like this. And we did. It's hundreds and hundreds of hours of work. It's incredibly complex, but that's how we grow. And there's nothing in this product that we have not done which we wanted to do, except for that one big sapphire, but I'm so happy it didn't work.
It was made on purpose at the end, this kind of glass, because during the sketch I say, do you remember, Max, the first time that we met, we discussed about the HM5. So on the glass, we're going to make the same design of the HM5. So it's a story behind Max and me.
So just for the anecdote, because it's important, 2017, I walk up to Fabrizio, I've never met, go and introduce myself, and I'm really impressed that he actually knows who I am. I'm a little less amazed these days, but in those days it was very amazing. And he says, and I'm sorry, I'm going to use an Italian accent, he says, I love the HM5. And that's our biggest flop of our history. Nobody loves the HM5 except me. And I was like, dude, you love the HM5? And we sat down and we had a coffee, and he started sketching an HM5 by Bvlgari. And we still have the drawings. And he says, we should do the HM5 with Bvlgari, no? And we were like kids. And it was 2017. It didn't happen. 2019, we have the idea of the Allegra, and etc. So whatever had to happen, happened.
No more questions?
Thank you. Were there other moments in the history of Bvlgari where women's inspired men's collections or vice versa? Or this is kind of like the first time?
I think every day, honestly. We talk about gentlemen watches, male watches in our office, in our department, with the meeting with the Jean-Christophe and the other colleagues, exactly in the same way. Honestly, it depends. If you want to wear a Serpenti today, you can wear a Serpenti. If you want to buy an Octo, you can buy an Octo. It's a matter of you, it's a matter of taste, but we don't have, even in my office, honestly, there is no designers that design just ladies' watches and designers design just male watches. Honestly, I don't care. If you have an idea about Serpenti, we go ahead. If you have an idea about Octo, could be the best idea. So it's a matter of you, your mindset, but honestly, for us in our company, it's always a circle. So I took inspiration from the brand, from some product of the 50s, of the 30s, of the 20s, or some other product of the 80s. Honestly, for us, is the same. It's the heritage of the brand, the most important things.
And I would add that what's more important than the genders is the icons and how much the icons do relate to each other. So for us, clearly in watches, the icons are Serpenti and Octo. And by the way, you find the same icon Serpenti also in the other categories. And this all relates closely to the main point of differentiation of Bvlgari, which is we are not French, we are not American, we are not Swiss, we are Italian. And so all the narrative of Bvlgari has to be one about, the culture, the architecture, the art of Roma, which dates back from 27th century. So it's probably the longest standing permanent artistic city in the world. And what's important eventually is that everything we do is inspired by this unique city civilization, which itself has borrowed a lot from Egyptians, from Persians, from Phoenicians, from Etruscans, so very, I would say, today we talk about inclusion. Probably the Romans have invented inclusion thousands of years before the word itself became trendy. So we want to be Roman inclusive, and this is far more important for us than the gender itself. And today we see also, between men and women, cross-gender products more and more popular. Even before we designed this extraordinary Serpenti, I would say masculine and unisex watch, in our Serpenti jewelry, we see a lot of gentlemen now wearing it, when initially it was meant for ladies. But more and more men now find it very trendy and wear it. So the genders are becoming less important. What's more important is the relevance, the resonance, and the emotion created by a creativity which itself is feeding itself day and night from a very clear vision, which was Roma.
That's it? No more questions?
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks
a
a lot.
Thank you so much.
Thank
you very
so
much.
Thank you. Thank you.